Hi everyone, and welcome to the final instalment of my entry into Markus's and Joachim's heavy armour group build. Just a quick recap: I am doing Trumpeter's 1/72 scale Jagdpanther. If you haven't checked out these guys before, their links are in the description below. Pop over and see their work, and click like and subscribe. In this video we're going to be looking at some pigments. First of all, what I did before applying the pigments was to cover the model in matte varnish, and then what I wanted to do is to try and use something different to pigment fixer on this particular model, because I do find this is quite an aggressive fixer and can weaken the joints. So what I thought I'd do as an experiment on this particular build was to use Tamiya's lacquer thinner and see what the results would be like. Now, as always, I have 3 little tubs with a mixture of pigments from dark to medium and then to light. Some are fine, some are coarse, but it gives a good basis for the pigment work. And I'm also going to be using some of MIG's white as well. So first of all, we're going to dab some of the darker colour along the very lower part of the hull. Don't be afraid to put quite a lot on, because it's ideal look the more that you use. Then moved on to the medium colour. Now this time I'm tapping it onto the model, because obviously I don't want to mix it in with the darker earth colours. And then finally we use the lighter colour underneath the hull itself, and that therefore gives you the 3 different shades all on that side of the hull. So like I say, I wanted to use the lacquer thinner, and just using a pipette that was used on the side with capillary action. That fixed it all into place, and then I added some splatter marks with the white. Now the white came out a bit gloopy, so I didn't do a great deal of work with that, but I was happy with the results. And then as I went around, I did some more speckling with a mixture of, in fact, the pigment fixer this time, with the different shades of pigment. And to be honest with you, the lacquer thinner did work well, did stick it on very well, and there was no issue with weakening the joints. However, I didn't feel it sort of gave that gritty, muddy look. So I think I will be going back to the pigment fixer and maybe trying out different brands. I did the speckle effects on the back of the tracks. Really pleased with how that came out. The other side of the tracks, the teeth were silvered to represent the wear and tear from the tracks, from the wheels. And then that was given an oil wash as well once that had been covered in matte varnish. Some other speckling work was also done once the tracks had been added. As for the oil work, I did my usual palette with the dust and earth tones. The whites did come out too well, so I did a separate palette, and I'll just work on the whites from that palette itself. And then we have the engine grease, and then we have dark sepia, and then we have the browns and the umbers, and also we have brick red and faded green at the end, and that will be for the camo work. As far as the brushes, apply with the round 2s, and also with the knife we do some of the speckling work. And then we have some artist's thinner for the cleaning of the brush. So here I'm going to show you the basic oil work that I use with the wheels. So first off, what we do is just get the thinner and just clean off the wheel, make sure we get rid of any dust or hairs that may have accumulated. And then what we're going to do, we're going to start doing some shading. So we're going to get a bit of that brick red, which by the way is 501 Abteilung oils. And we're just going to do a little bit of shade in and around the hub and along the sides. And what I want to show in this particular part of the video is the benefit of the layering process, where we do different layers of oil work, different colours, and just to build up a timeline. So once each layer has been done, we dry it all off with the hairdryer. And now what we're going to do is going to mix some light mud and some light dust, and we're going to start doing all the dust layers, because what you want to do, you want to start by lightening up the area and then bringing it back down with the darker colours afterwards. So what I want to do here is just apply a very light dust colour all the way around the central part of the wheel, blending it all in as I go. We don't want this to be thick, we still want to see the colour coming through, and this can be controlled by the amount of thinner that you use on your brush. And then once the front was done, it was a matter of just doing the tyres as well, and then working our way around to the back of the wheel as well. And then once that was done, it's a matter of getting your blending brush and using this stippling effect. We can just blend all of that in on the front, and also on the tyres as well, and then working our way around to the back of the wheel. Clean off the brush as much as you possibly can to take off any excess oil, and then just blend it in. And then, as you can see, I'm now doing radial streaks just to create a little bit of sort of streaking effect on the tyres and the hub. And then we get the hairdryer on it, and there, as you can see, once dried, it makes quite a difference to the original. Now we're going to do a little bit of speckling with the lighter colours, just using the back end of the knife and with the brush. And as you can see there, we've got some lovely speckling effects come up on the hub. Again, hairdryer, and then once that's all been hair dried, we then apply a wash of dust oil all the way around the outside of the rim, and also on the inner part as well. Again, reinforcing the idea of building up the layers. Once done, get the hairdryer on that so it's all nice and dry in preparation for the next layer. And again, we're going to add some mud splatter marks this time. Now if you do a little bit too thick, or you're not happy with the way it looks, it's not an issue. All you need to do is to get yourself a blending brush, as I'm doing here. Make sure it's nice and clean, and then just very gently start blending in the larger splatter marks so that it looks more conform to the look that you're after. There we go. Still a few there that I wasn't too happy with, so just keep, this great thing about oils, you can just keep playing with them until you get the look that you're after. And then again, once you're happy with that, get the hairdryer on it. And there you can see now what a difference to the original acrylic colour with the oil work. So now that we've done all of the dust work and the light colours, we're now going to move on to the darker colours. So first off, we're going to use a bit of Van Dyke Brown from Winsor & Newton. And what I want to do now is just to create a little bit of shadow work around the rim and around the central area as well. Now this is not like a wash. There's very little thinner in this at all, because what you don't want to be doing is taking off all that hard work that you've done already with the dust work. And again, once that's all been applied, it's out with the blending brush, stippling motion initially, and then you can do some sweeping motions in and out to create some of that radial dirt as well. Now this will be the basis for further dirt work to be applied, just to sort of give that impression of several layers of dirt. So really pleased how that's the first layers come out. Again, we'll add some speckles, and don't forget to keep hair drying in between each stage. And now, using the burnt umber, I'm just adding another layer of dirt, being a bit more precise this time, and adding a bit of contrast to the Van Dyke brown. And again, getting the blending brush in there with the stippling effect, and a bit of the radial motion as well. Now this particular example that I'm showing you here, I'm doing all of the bases here, so at some point, if you're happy with the look of the wheel and you don't want to do any more weathering, then great. But I'm going to show you how to do some engine grease and some other works as well. So it's your build, you decide on the final look that you're after. So if we clean the brush off now, what we want to do is to add on a bit of the engine grease. This is going to be done in the form of the splatters, as you can see on the back of the knife. Again, the strength of the splatter marks will be dependent on how much thinner you actually use on the knife. So again, once hair dried, that's all coming along nicely. And again, the comparison to the original one. And we'll now apply a bit of a wash with the engine oil. Again, this is from Abteilung 501. And this will just go around the hub. There's no need to do this on all of your wheels, because it does look a bit silly, but if you sort of pick out 2 or 3, it does create a nice effect. Here we want to be quite bold and quite wide, and we'll just do one little line coming out leakage to the outer rim. Again, get the hair dry on that. And then what we're going to do, we're going to be a little bit more precise now. We're going to get some sepia, again from Abteilung, and we'll try and work inside of that engine grease stain and make it a little bit more defined. There we go, nice looking stain there from the hub. Again, if you want to go the extra distance, you can do some more radial work as well to make it really dirty and greasy if you want. So once the wheels were all done, it was a matter of adding them obviously onto the main model itself. Unfortunately, I forgot to tape off the each of the axles, so I had to scrape off all of the pigments in that, but it wasn't an issue. So the inner wheels were all added on first. It's very important that you get these aligned properly. There we go, you can see that the back of the wheels do need to be done, because they will be clearly seen once the model's finished. The second layer of wheels, they were added in the same way. As you can see, I've also silvered the rims as well, and at the top there I've silvered the idlers. But again, make sure all of the wheels are going on in the equal distancing and in a straight line. And there's the final ones with the idlers. So that was all left to dry completely before the tracks are added. I like to add the sprockets to the tracks first of all. Once they've all been set with glue, with CA glue, then they're added onto the tank as well. And then again, once that is completely dried, then I can play around with the tracks. They went on pretty well, except for this side. It was my silly fault. I put the bend in where the join was, and it snapped off. But it wasn't a major issue, and once it had all dried, I could quite easily fit an extra little piece in on the back there. So I was really pleased with how it went. There was a little bit of issue with the join, so as you can see I've added some snow effects with the white pigment, so you can't see the join, as they say. But all in all, very pleased with the resin tracks. You'll also see I've done some oil work on the pigments, just to sort of show stains and water stains, etc. And if we just go in for a close-up, you can see some of the grease marks are still quite shiny. The way to do that is very simply just to add on some gloss varnish, and you can clearly see the inner wheels with the silver on the rims, so I was very pleased with that effect. And as you can see, we got all the pigment work underneath the fenders, and we've done some speckling work at the back where the guards have been broken, and obviously there'll be mud splatter up onto the main body itself. And again, that's replicated at the front on the right hand side there. Lots of speckling on the back. As you can see, the jack's been put in place now as well as the tow rope. So that's the lower hull completed. Now we need to go on to the upper hull, and it's very much using the same process of layering out the oils. So here I've added on the initial dust layers with the speckling. Also started to do a little bit of colorization on the sheets and the barrel. Again, once all the dust layers had been done, it was a matter of just doing a wash of the Van Dyke brown, and then that was thinned out, and then we did a pin wash with the burnt umber to define all the details, and then finally a pin wash with the sepia, which was then just left to dry, and that gives you that final look. So I was really pleased the contrast between the top and the bottom. And that process was repeated all the way around the tank itself. So all the layers were building up well. Very pleased with the look that I was getting. It was really a matter of just adding a little bit of extra here and there. The actual side protectors, they were real pain because obviously they're metal, so some of the metal did shine through because of me manhandling them onto the tank itself. So there was quite a bit of touching up that needed to be done, but once the weathering had finished, all of these white marks etc. that you can see, they'd all disappeared. But the close-ups give you an example of the weathering. There's lots of speckle work in there as well with the pigments. And again, it's just trying to blend all of these items in so that the tank is a whole rather than sort of lots of little separate parts. The back end had further grease work done at the final stages, but all in all I was really pleased with how it had turned out. All the tracks and the tools etc. that they were given weathering with the oils in the normal way, and the sheets at this stage I was happy with their particular look. So there we have it, everyone. A really enjoyable build. Take my hat off to Trumpeter. They've produced a wonderful kit here. It went together really well, so if you ever want to do an out of the box build, I certainly recommend this kit. Just like to say a massive thank you to Markus and to Joachim for all their hard work in putting this group build together. It's been a lot of fun, guys, and thanks very much for inviting me along, and I look forward to taking part in next year's group build. So it just leaves me to say thank you very much for looking in and your continued support of my work and the channel, and happy modelling.